かし、度重なる物価の上昇で値上げも限界を迎え、
In 2025, ramen shops in Japan faced a serious problem that had not seen in more than 30 years: rising food prices. The price of nearly every single ingredient in ramen has gone up significantly in the past 5 years. From 2019 to 2025, key items used in ramen such as scallions and flour have rose significantly in cost.
チャーシューに使う輸入物の肉が5年前は1キロあたりおよそ600円だったのに対し、昨年末にはおよそ900円に。
我慢しようとすると借金が増えたり。
This has made it difficult for independent ramen shops like his to succeed in the country against big chains. Even Japanese ramen shops packed with customers are still losing money or planning to file for bankruptcy.
しかし先月末に店を閉めることを決めました。その一番の要因となったのが物価高です。
Because of factors like inflation and a lack of available workers. Although it seems strange that busy ramen shops still lose money, you have to understand that ramen has this history of being a working man's food in Japan. Ramen is historically known as a cheap, quick, and filling dish for salarymen and students. It's located in almost every train station, alleyway, and neighborhood. It's a quick and reliable meal for lunch breaks, teenagers hungry after school, and salarymen taking a late-night train home. There's even an economic rule surrounding ramen known as a wall of 1,000 yen in Japan.
ラーメン業界で叫ばれる1000円の壁。
The consensus among the ramen industry is that customers won't pay more than 1,000 yen for a bowl of ramen. Since ramen is often perceived as an affordable dish, ramen was even nicknamed the one-coin meal since a 500 yen coin would purchase you the most basic version of the dish without any add-ons. The affordable ramen mindset isn't just prevalent among customers, but shop owners as well.
1000円を超えると客離れにつながるのではと。
When it comes to the dish, Japan still recognizes affordability as one of the most important part of ramen in the country. As of February of 2025, the average price of a bowl of ramen is still under 700 yen. And although the price is still low compared to many other dining options, crossing or getting close to that 1,000 yen line is seen as a blow to ramen's image that can drive away diners.
ラーメン業界では1杯1000円を超えると客足が落ちるとされ、
The fear is that with over 21,000 ramen shops in the country, customers will simply visit another shop whenever a shop owner raises prices. This puts enormous pressure on small independently owned shops to keep the prices low, even if that means that the business is losing money. As a result, it's estimated that 34% of ramen shops in Japan are losing money, and in 2025, there's a record number of ramen bankruptcies in the country. Many ramen shops in the country are struggling to adapt to the rising price in the country since the country has historically faced record low inflation rates. In fact, the average annual inflation in Japan is only 2.4%. In some years, the country even faced deflation, or when companies drop the prices in order to stay competitive, since people are not buying enough stuff. However, in 2024, inflation climbed to a record high of 3.6%, the highest rate in roughly 30 years. In particular, food inflation grew to a high of 6.4% due to domestic as well as international problems with sourcing. Not only are the costs of raw ingredients getting more expensive, labor and electricity also increased by 6 to 20% over the last 5 years, making the process more expensive than it used to be. As a result, there's even a growing number of ramen shops losing money, as well as even soupless ramen shops in Japan because of the high cost of operating a traditional shop. The energy required to simmer the broth over a long period of time to bring out the complex flavor often requires shops to keep on the power for 24 hours a day. On the news, a few shop owners are even saying that the cost of making soup, boiling large quantities of sometimes expensive ingredients for hours on end, was a huge cost, and converting 100% to a meze soba or a bura soba type place has enabled them to survive. These shops serve ramen with very little soup or no soup at all, since one of the most expensive parts of making ramen is the broth. In some ramen restaurants, owners can save $500 to $1,000 per month by switching to soupless broth. Keep in mind that ramen restaurants in Japan are not very profitable to start with.
1杯の価格1000円のうち原価と人件費が6割から7割を占め、そこから光熱費などを引くと利益は100円前後。
It's not a business that people get into to get rich. The average ramen shop owner in Japan can expect to take home $27,000 to $55,000 a year. For this amount of money, they usually work 12 hours a day, 6 hours a week, and make under $15 an hour if you do the math. It's also very difficult to find as well as keep staff because a lot of them want to learn how to make ramen so they can open up their own shop. Profits also tend to vary dramatically based on the region that you're in. Each region in Japan has its own style ramen, from noodle texture to ingredient in the broth. This can significantly increase your costs or make your life a lot easier. This includes creamy pork bone broth or tonkatsu in the south, sweet corn or butter miso in the north, and even a dipping ramen with noodles served separately from the broth. But the consensus around the country has been a dramatic drop in profit for small businesses. Let's take a look at the map behind a single ramen joint, which we will call Meow Meow Ramen. At Meow Meow Ramen, we only serve a single type of fish ramen at a price of 900 yen or $6. At the end of the month, we managed to sell 6,667 bowls to the neighborhood. This nets us close to 40,000 per month before accounting for any sort of costs, which is pretty good. But if we factor in costs like raw ingredients like fish, labor, and utilities, this leaves us with $3,500, very close to the average Japanese wage. We're pretty happy. Let's say that the next month comes and prices have skyrocketed. Things like raw ingredients increase by 17% and utilities increase by 20%. Wages, thanks to the rise in minimum wage and the lack of available workers, have also increased in cost. This means that this month we're losing $800 even if we sell the same amount of bowl as we did last month. As a business owner, you might be panicking, but you'll quickly realize that the only way to save Meow Meow Ramen is to raise the price immediately, so you do. This month we increased the price from 900 yen to 1,000 yen. After we made this change, we managed to finish the month netting $3,200, close to what we made before. Enough to pay for rent, support your child, as well as eat.
1杯700円だったラーメン。物価の上昇とともに価格を見直してきましたが、ついに今回930円から1000円に値上げしました。
As you can see, when these ramen restaurants raise prices, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it for more profit, but merely for survival. But these ramen restaurants, including our fictional store, is now capped at this price due to the law of 1,000 yen. To push forward in price means that these locations may not actually benefit from increasing their revenue, since customers would simply go elsewhere. In 2024, this resulted in a record number of bankruptcies by independently owned ramen shops, creating an opportunity for large corporations and chains to expand their own reach. The company Yosinora, a Japanese chain who specializes on beef bowls, purchased a regional ramen chain as the chain struggled with rising costs. Historically, Japanese ramen has been a mixture of independently owned small businesses and corporations. But this crisis marked a change where ramen restaurants are consolidating under bigger corporations. Analysts predict that about 50% of ramen shops in Japan are chains, and this number is expected to rise to 70% as the market condition worsens. In 2024, a record number of ramen restaurants filed for bankruptcy.
去年倒産や休廃業をしたラーメン店は合わせて74件と過去最多となりました。
The 74 bankruptcies here represent a fraction of the total number of ramen restaurants in Japan. Yet the increasing number of closures here underscore a larger economic problem in the country of Japan. Inflation is rising after almost 3 decades of economic stagnation. To enable people to cope with rising prices, Japan has instituted several increases to the minimum wage, taking the national average from 961 yen to 1,054 yen. The wage increase are good news for households but creates another additional problem for small businesses. Basically more cost. According to a senior Japan economist at Oxford Economics, the ramen shop example is a really good one of economic trends because they struggle to pass on the increase in costs to their final customer. Basically, when ramen shops face problems, you know something is really wrong in the country. In fact, Japan has been facing multiple crises in the country, although wages are rising at the fastest pace in 3 decades. They're not keeping up with inflation, making people feel like they're getting poorer. The Japanese currency has lost more than 40% of its value against the dollar in the past 5 years, attracting investors who want to take advantage of the weak yen. It made imports into resource-poor Japan dramatically more expensive, compounding the energy shortage following the Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
More than 90% of the nation's energy supply is imported. According to the Federation of Electric Power Companies of Japan, the country is highly vulnerable to global energy supply disruptions like these. Climate change has also wreaked havoc on crops, making it too hot to grow in some regions and too cold in others. This means that production is at an all-time low, and common ingredients, even the humble cabbage, which is the cornerstone of Japanese food, has risen by 336% since 2019, along with other basic ingredients. This includes lettuce, tomato, cabbage, and carrots. Some of these food prices have increased due to poor harvests, but others were driven by Japan's high dependence on food imports. The shock has hit Japanese consumers particularly hard since they're used to stable prices for such a long time. Small businesses even hesitate to pass on the cost to consumers out of fear of ruining their reputation and losing customers like so many ramen shops in Japan. Of course, ramen culture in Japan isn't going away anytime soon. Before 2022, consumers were hesitant to see any sort of price hikes, whether it's food or rent or whatever, but now they accepted the increase in their cost of living. To show you how unprecedented it was to raise prices, in 2016, a Japanese ice cream company made a rare move by publicly apologizing for raising the price of their beloved ice cream bar by just 9 cents. This price hike, the first in 25 years, saw the cost rising from 60 yen to 70 yen. But today, customers expect inflation as a daily part of their lives. For many ramen restaurants in Japan, this is now the reality. In an interview, a 52-year-old ramen owner said on a break between lunch and dinner service, between one of his 17-hour shifts he worked 6 days a week, "I couldn't hesitate to increase prices, otherwise we would be in the red." Many in the industry are now breaking the point of the 1,000 yen wall. Unless inflation is addressed, many ramen shops are forced to continue to raise their prices to and beyond the 1,000 yen wall, while keeping qualities high so customers might come back. However, not everyone in the country is facing this problem. The owner of Hakata Ramen in Tokyo says that his store is doing just fine, charging an average of 1,300 yen a bowl. And customers agree the store's relatively strong review of 3.7 stars on the Japanese restaurant rating site Tablelog makes it one of the top 5,000 ramen joints in Japan. This means that many shops are breaking the 1,000 yen wall and are still managing not only to stay in business, but to thrive. There's also specialty shops in Japan that can charge up to 3,000 yen for a bowl of roast beef ramen. As you can see, it's possible for ramen shops to thrive in this new environment. However, as conditions potentially worsen over time, only the best stores may survive, and it's likely that the 1,000 yen wall will soon be broken by the industry as new standards emerge. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoy it, and for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. And again, I'll see you guys again next week.
謎肉増量株主